I chose to analyze the short story Reunion written by John Cheever. The first thing I want to analyze is the point of view. So we know the short story has been written in first-person narrator, and the point of view being Charlie's. We know this thanks to line 1, page 1, where it says, "The last time I saw my father was in Grand Central Station." He says I, by this we know it's first-person narrator. The second thing I want to talk about is the settings. So we know the time of the story was published was 1962. So thanks to that we can kind of assume the short story probably takes place around the same time. Then we have the different settings, like the different places we've been. So we have the train station. We also hear something about Charlie's grandmother's home in Aradocus. And then we also hear a lot about some different restaurants. And then of course there is the physical environment being New York. So they're in New York because that's the place where Charlie's fathers were. So we know that Charlie's father has some money on his side, so we can assume that Charlie's physical environment right now is not that bad. However, Charlie's psychological environment is not in the best place. And that's partly because of his father. However, on that note, I would like to talk about the character Charlie and his development. Now I want to talk about Charlie and his development throughout the short story. So we hear from the start how Charlie comes from a divorced home and he hasn't seen his father in 3 years. So from the start, we hear this in line 7, page 1, by the way. So from the start, we know that his family situation is probably not the best place. And we later on figure out why it's not in the best place. So we also hear about how much Charlie misses not being with his dad and how much he wants to be with him and meet him and have a relationship with him. He idolizes his father quite a lot. There's also something I want to read up in line 9, page 1, where it says, "But as soon as I saw him, I felt that he was my father, my flesh and blood, my future and doom." I want to comment on some foreshadowing here. So Charlie states, "my future and doom." Charlie knew from the start that his father was maybe going to be like something very important to him in his future, but he was also going to be the doom of something, that being the relationship between him and Charlie. And Charlie had already created this perfect image of his father, being this businessman, this perfect businessman. He was handsome and strong and important, but that image of him soon cripples. By going to these restaurants, Charlie realizes he's not this amazing person. He's just a man with a lot of anger issues, and a man that can't speak to others with respect. Um, as But for a moment, we do think that Charlie's father may have some redemption, but he destroys that quite quickly. So we hear this in line 33, page 2, where he apologizes to Charlie for acting like this. Charlie goes through this development of idolizing his father and wanting nothing more than to be with him, to going to a place where he wants nothing more to do with him. He just wants to get away from him. I also want to talk about the symbols. So I found 2 big symbols in the short story. The first one being the train. So a train can symbolize moving towards something in your life or moving away from it, and just in general, a train symbolizes life journey. So Charlie goes to his father by train. That can symbolize him wanting his father to be a part of his life journey. He's moving towards something, that something being his father. And at the end of the story, Charlie leaves his father by train. This way, it symbolizes Charlie moving on from his father, and Charlie's father has become a part of his life journey. This episode it has happened. It's always going to be in his memory, but by going on the train and leaving his father, he's moving on from this image he had created of his father, and this want he had to go be with him. And then the other symbolism is the newspaper or photograph, so something permanent. Almost. So in line 19, page 1, we hear about the photograph. Charlie says, I wish that we could be photographed. Charlie wants something, in the start of the story, Charlie wants something permanent of him and his father together, like a photograph. While in line 9, page 3, it says, I have to go, Daddy. I said it's late. Where now Charlie, what's happening here in line 9, page 3 is Charlie's father is trying to buy him a newspaper, and Charlie refuses. This symbolizes Charlie refusing to have his father be something permanent of his life. And again, it goes back to the train. Charlie leaves. He just leaves, says goodbye, Daddy, and leaves and goes on to the train. He's moving on from the episode of his father. The last thing I want to talk about was themes. So we see themes like growth in the short story. We see this throughout Charlie. So he grows from idolizing his father to realizing that he's really just quite an angry man. We also have some more problematic issues as a theme like anger control. And we see this throughout the father. He obviously has some problem with his anger that he needs to learn how to control. And we kind of see the consequences of if you don't get control over your anger. Then there's obviously the theme of family. The story is about a boy going to see his father and realizing that sometimes the images you imagine in your head are not going to be the ones that happens in real life. But that was all I had for the text Reunion, written by John Cleaver.